Ghosts. Whether you believe in their existence or not, it's hard to deny the influence they've had on us. Since the dawn of man, the concept of life after death, the paranormal, and entities has interested and even frightened many across the world. While it's still not fully understood what ghosts actually are, whether they be the souls of the deceased, otherworldly beings, or all of the above, the topics in this video just might shed some light on that question. Join me as we explore the world's most haunted locations. The Stanley Hotel, located in Estes Park, Colorado, is the first item on our list. In 1911, it was struck by a flood in the region, knocking out the hotel's power for the first time in its operation. A man named Freeland Stanley took matters into his own hands and brought a gas lantern into each one of the guests' rooms to provide them with light while the power outage was resolved. Unfortunately, one of these gas lamps had leaked in room 217, the very same room Mr. King and his wife stayed in when he had a nightmare that inspired his blockbuster hit, The Shining. A chambermaid named Elizabeth Wilson entered the room holding a lit candle, unbeknownst to her what would follow as a consequence. With the amount of gas lingering in the air, the flame from the candle caused a combustion in the room, which miraculously she survived, even after reportedly being launched onto the first floor dining room. Other guests were not as lucky, however. Some even mentioned seeing things such as a bathtub being thrown into the air from the blast. Fast forwarding to the year 1950, the ghost of Elizabeth is said by some to still inhabit that very same room. But of the encounters experienced, those affected say she was rather helpful to them and not scary at all. Reports of hotel patrons returning to their room only to find their beds and other furniture neatly made and cleaned were not uncommon. One couple even said that their bed had been made for them while they were still laying in it. On the contrary, unwed couples have reportedly felt a cold presence settle into bed with them instead. Mr. Stanley, the hotel's owner, passed away in 1940 at the old age of 91. However, some say his presence never left, stating that he frequents the pool room and bars mostly. Additionally, his wife seems to have a fondness for playing on the hotel's piano. Another popular ghost sighting in this hotel is that of a young child who is said to play with people's hair, and sometimes can even be heard laughing, only for the person hearing it to find no one there. On a more bittersweet topic, the hotel also hosts a pet cemetery, which reportedly is home to a golden retriever named Cassie. This friendly and lovable pup has been known to deliver newspapers and even paw at the front door as if asking to be let inside. Next on our list is a place known as Eastern State Penitentiary, a location which terrifies some just by hearing the name alone. Located in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, this notorious prison opened its doors in the earlier half of the 1800s. In its time, this detention center held criminals such as Al Capone, who even had his own specially made cell. Reports of ghostly sightings at this old historic prison are certainly no rarity. On many occasions, people visiting the building, whether for maintenance or tourism, have shared their own experiences of apparitions and encounters. Some even saying that they were physically overtaken by an unseen force, only to then be met with an unfamiliar disembodied face. These faces are believed to be that of inmates, but who's to say for certain? Others have also reported seeing shadowy figures or silhouettes that they simply can't explain. It's anyone's guess as to if these are intelligent hauntings or residual. For those uneducated, an intelligent haunting implies that the inhabiting entity is aware that it is haunting the location and is capable of interacting with the people or objects around it. However, a residual haunting can be quite simply seen as a play of sorts. Imagine it as a tape recorded that is playing on repeat, unaware that it even exists, or that it is even being broadcast for all to see. A more common sighting in this location is bouts of giggling or laughing with no discernible source. One of the most infamous inmates of the prison, Al Capone, even mentioned that he felt as though he were haunted by a specific ghost during his 8-month sentence there. This location has also been investigated and featured on TV shows such as Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures. How about you, though? Are you a thrill seeker who takes any chance you get to have a good scare? Or would you rather stay as far away from this place as possible? The Paris catacombs are probably amongst the most well-known places on Earth, let alone one of the most widely known haunted locations. Those brave enough to venture into its daring depths have reported experiencing phenomena such as disembodied voices, odd lights and orbs, and even apparitions of people they've never seen. Being the single largest mass grave on the planet, these catacombs have not even been fully mapped out. Spanning God only knows how many miles wide, and housing approximately 6 million corpses, this labyrinth saw its debut sometime in the 1700s as an attempt to remedy the plague of death sweeping across Europe at the time. With this much death and despair, it's impossible to imagine there isn't at least one ghost or two wandering the labyrinth halls. The island of the Dolls, located in Mexico, is indeed a frightening sight to come across. However, it was made with good intentions. The man behind it all, Don Julian Santana Barrera, was said to have discovered the corpse of a little girl in the water. Seeing this, he had thought she must have drowned. Shortly after, he also found a doll in the same body of water, and in response, he hung it up in a tree to appease her spirit. While there have been no reports or evidence of her actually haunting the island, Barrera stuck to his roots and continued finding new dolls to decorate the island with. In 2001, after Barrera started to hear mermaids calling for him, he was found lying face down in the canal, said to be in the exact same spot as the girl he found some time ago. After Barrera's tragic death, the island was opened to the public as a tourist destination. Since then, it has been said that the doll residents have been known to move of their own accord, and sometimes even be heard talking to each other. Some patrons of the attraction even tend to the dolls, giving them fresh changes of clothing, keeping them clean, and maintaining them to keep them appeased and satisfied. The Queen Mary, also known as the RMS Queen Mary, was a British ocean liner that operated in the 20th century and was said to have carried some 50 million passengers in its time. However, just because the ship no longer travels across the waters doesn't mean it sits silently. Talk of this luxurious liner becoming a home of the departed began back in the 1980s, largely due to attention garnered by Time magazine and even the ship's own workforce. Many stories of people being murdered aboard the vessel have cropped up, including one tragic incident where a father took the life of his 2 daughters in one of the pool rooms. However, no one has come forth to prove or deny these claims being true or false. One post online I found particularly interesting claimed that in a room where there used to be a pool, they caught a brief glimpse of what looked to be a person, or the silhouette of a person, diving from what looked to be a diving board. I find this one to be very interesting, as it harkens back to the whole residual haunting concept. One constant I found during my research is that a decent amount of the people who visited this ship claimed to have at some point during their stay felt either dizzy out of nowhere or completely drained of all energy. The ancient Ram Inn, slated as being the most haunted building in England, is also allegedly over 800 years old. With a history that old, it's easy to see how it would be such a hotspot for the paranormal. The first room guests enter when walking inside is called the men's kitchen, and is reportedly built on top of a pagan burial site. For reasons unknown, this same site is commonly known to be the source of an infant crying, only for no children to be present. Past this room, there is a staircase leading to another floor, which, in experiences past, has been known to throw people before they even have time to get all the way up or down. This very same stairwell has also been the site of white mist that looked oddly humanoid. A medium inside a room called the Bishop's Room was supposedly lifted up and then thrown with great force. This room is also thought to be the most active in the entire inn. The Bishop's Room doesn't stop there, as there have also been reports of a man's terrified screaming. These screams are thought to have been caused by him falling into a fireplace and burning to death. If you plan on testing your luck by sleeping in this room, you just might wake the next day, remembering sounds of some heavy object being dragged along the floor in the attic above. What are your thoughts on the paranormal, ghosts, and otherworldly experience? If you've ever had any of your own, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. What do you enjoy most about the paranormal? Their ability to frighten us? The fact that no one really knows what it is? Or perhaps something else entirely? Whatever the case may be, don't get into too much trouble should you ever decide to visit any of these places. Stay safe out there, and as always, good night.